inonzi shamwari yakanaka waiona shamwari yakanaka inonzi shamwari yakanaka panerewe kuimba ya Sauro timuitire zvakanaka nekuda kwaJonathani munozviziva mese shamwari hazvinei kwaSara akaremara asingaone kana asingataure ngauye adzidze kunodzidza vamwe mwana weshamwari hazvinei anorarama neautism asinganzwe kana ari muwheelchair ngauye adye zvinodya vamwe mwana weshamwari kurangarira mwana weshamwari isipo kurangarira mwana weshamwari yakaenda kare.
Good evening, viewers from all over the world. Welcome to our Change Radio program, our special event tonight, where we are joining the rest of the world in commemorating the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. It's an UN day where this theme for the year is leadership and participation of persons with disabilities. I'm happy tonight to be joined by our very own Tafadzwa and Florence Mudzingwa. I'm going to hand them over to Tafadzwa and then to Florence, just to introduce yourselves to the audience.
Okay, yeah, all right. It's a good evening, Sophie. Yeah, my name is Tafadzwa Nyamuziwa, also known as DJ Nyams, a disability consultant, and I'm totally blind, a radio personality. Yeah.
Thank you. Welcome. Flo, over to you. Would you like to introduce yourselves to our guests all over the world?
Okay. My name is Florence Mudzingwa, and I'm the founder of Hope Resurrect Trust.
Welcome, Florence. Good to have you. So let's go straight into it. DJ Nyams, could you just take us through what this day means to you and, to everyone else within and outside of the community of persons with disabilities?
Okay, yeah, it's a day that was set aside by the United Nations to recognize persons with disabilities around the world. To me, it's just like a day where people should realize, different communities and society, there are persons with disabilities that are there, and these people are just like human beings. They're just like everybody else. So, literally, to me, it's just a day where it recognizes the importance of persons in the society, that persons with disabilities are just also human beings.
Absolutely, you're so right. Just taking in what someone had posted in celebrating this day. They were saying it's a day about promoting the rights and the well-being of persons with disabilities at every level of society and development, and to raise awareness of the situation of persons with disabilities in all aspects of political, social, economic, and cultural life. So we're raising awareness and to just, promote the rights and the well-being of persons with disabilities. Would you say, as a person living with a disability, that your rights and your well-being are being promoted?
I think Flo start off. Let's hear from Flo what she has got to say first.
Yeah, if she feels that her rights and her well-being are being promoted as a person living with a disability.
Well, At first, I think it's still a challenge for persons with disabilities to have to gain employment, as you know the buildings are inaccessible, and also the that being the challenge as well, the barriers of physical accessibility of most buildings and amenities makes it difficult for persons with disabilities to gain employment. And you know, employment is a fundamental right for a person, because when they are employed, they're able to look after themselves and to be independent and have the potential to for growth economically and personally.
Absolutely, absolutely, Flo. DJ Nyams?
Okay. Now, when you talk about the rights of disability, and this is just this is what my whole experience, and it depends where you're looking it from. You understand? There are certain countries that have really done well in terms of respecting the rights of persons with disabilities. There are countries that have not done anything in terms of the rights of the disabled being respected. I'll give you some certain examples. In a country like Zimbabwe, I think the rights of persons with disabilities are very far away from being respected and being realized. Certain things like basic things to right to shelter, right to clean and safe water, right to security, right to justice, right to education, right to health, all those things, 40 years after independence, it's still a society that does not really recognize the rights of persons with disability. Speaking from experience, um, when I was hit by a car in 2017, literally the right to justice is not there. The justice system does not give you that right for the perpetrator for your situation, your case to get justice. So if you don't get justice, if you're expecting your right to security to be uh, to be observed and it's not being there, then there's a serious problem. So you figure out certain countries have done totally nothing in terms of the rights of persons with disabilities, but certain countries have actually done quite well. Like for example, if I then look at a society like Germany, in terms of rights of persons with disabilities, they've done really really well in terms of giving them rights to education, rights to shelter, rights to access for education, rights to, like even what Flo was talking about, use of accessibility. Here it's a big issue in Germany when it comes to what to use of accessibility. Because at the end of the day, if the buildings are accessible and everything, also issues of empowerment, like what Flo was talking about, is realized. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's quite a lot to think about and quite a lot to tackle. I mean, like Flo, being a Zimbabwean, what do you think we need to do as a community to raise awareness to these issues that affect, day-to-day living of people with disabilities? So that maybe we can get to the same extent as the example of Germany that we were given. Hello, Flo?
Hello, the network is very bad. I didn't hear what you said.
Okay, right. I was asking, having heard what DJ Nyams is saying about, the rights of people with disabilities and how we can respect them and how they can be empowered. What do you think, as a country, as Zimbabwe, we need to do so that we take a step forward in raising awareness and raising the rights for people living with disabilities so that we can get maybe to a stage of where the example of Germany was given?
Hmm. Okay. Um. Well, there was a disability national policy that was introduced in June this year, and we hope that that policy, if it's implemented and all the stakeholders join in, it might be a game changer for persons with disabilities, because they would also, their needs will be also seen and worked on, and that will improve the the situation for persons with disabilities. But at the moment, I think the advocacy work will needs to continue, so that people, society, can realize that persons with disabilities also have potential. One thing that I'm seeing slowly progressing is how now people are beginning to embrace disability, and to also notice the potential that persons with disabilities have. At least we are moving away from the charity model to a place where now it's more about empowering and self-awareness, raising awareness about disabilities, which is a good direction that we're taking.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good that you mentioned that, we're moving away from the charity aspect to where even persons with disabilities are in charge of developing their communities and their country.
Mm-hmm.
DJ Nyams,
Sophie,
what?
Sophie,
Yeah.
just adding up to what Flo is saying.
Mm,
What I've been thinking about, for a very long time, and I was saying where the problem always lies is when disability is put under either health or um, under social welfare. You understand? Whereby a disability is put under the Ministry of Health or the Ministry of Social Welfare. And for me, my thinking is, because disability is just a cross-cutting issue in all sectors. In every other ministry should actually have a disability desk, sort of like to say, because in every sector, the happy persons with disabilities, and this is how some of these things can be easily addressed. I'm a person who says, fair and fair and fine. There is a policy, there's a disability policy. But that disability policy could be there. But for us to realize the implementation of it, it can take us another 20, 30, 40 years. You understand? Stakeholders, politicians need now to make sure that that policy is implemented, and it should have timelines that the first phase, like what from when it was implemented, so far, what have we done? What have we realized? What are the changes that have been done? Because just having it is one thing, but actually it being realized is another thing.
it's
I'm
something else.
I'm a more practical driven person than a more technical driven person, because at times we've got too much paperwork, but when it comes to implementation, it's another story.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I don't know, admin, there was a comment there from Lily Funk. If you can just put it up for us so I can read it out. And this is an invitation to all our viewers all over the world. Please bring in your questions, bring in your comments, your contributions are welcome. This is an international celebration, I want to call it, celebrating our champions, people and persons living with disabilities. And the theme for this year is leadership and participation of persons with disabilities. So, like rightfully, like what Flo said, we're moving away from the charity aspect to actually looking at leadership and participation, actually expecting leadership and participation of persons with disabilities. Lily Funk says the question is how much is the government doing about this? We had the Gyros Jiri movement, the most disability organization that worked so much to promote workplace education, etc. That organization works tirelessly to provide in that section of disability. It's sad that these people are discriminated against in society. Very valid comments there, Lily Funk. So the question now is what is the government doing about this? Like what you rightfully said, there's a national policy that was unveiled in June or July this year. But my fear is that it's all talk. A lot of talk has been going on. I remember when we were young, I think this is like 30 or so years ago, when there was a slogan that disability does not mean inability, which means that all these, the awareness, the movement, the how can I call it? The advocacy had been going on for a long time, but something somewhere happens and stops the actual implementation, and people just like to talk about things. So, just to answer the question, I think I'll give it to you while we're waiting for Flo. DJ Yams. What is the
Okay.
government doing about this? As a disabled person, do you feel the government has done enough to support persons with disabilities?
For me, they have not even yet started. You got what I'm saying? That's how I would
Mm,
put it. Because 40 years from now, Sophie, is when you look at Zimbabwe in terms of disability, you ask yourself most of the times, there was the COVID pandemic.
mhm,
What did government even do just to cushion persons with disability? You get what I'm saying? Even they could have just said, we're going to give everybody with a disability just 20 years, even 50 years, just to cushion them during this COVID pandemic. What happened?
mm,
Nothing happened. If you look at kids in terms of access to education, how many kids have got access to education? Right now, there's this whole issue of online learning and everything. Kids right now are going to be writing their O and A levels. Do you ever think about a child with a disability during this whole lockdown? Did they have access to the computer, to the internet, to the infrastructure? But they're expected to write an O or an A level, you understand, with the same child who had an opportunity to be able to do online classes, right? You even look at in terms of access to things like be it education, be it empowerment, be it health. So for me, I'm like thinking there's nothing according this is my own rating. Government has actually not done anything. They should actually
mm,
do much more better. When government comes in first and says no, us as government we're going to say 20% of our workforce in all the parastatals we're going to have persons with disabilities. You understand? Two, if government is going to say, I was talking to a guy this afternoon and I said, what also government needs to do, for example, there has to be a disability card that at the same register office where you go and get your national ID, you can actually go and get your disability card. And this disability card just has my photo, my first name, my surname, maybe my probably date of birth, ID number, and my disability. And this card then becomes a uniform. What the advantage number one is, government then is able to have statistics of persons with disabilities in the country that, okay, we've got 5 million persons with disabilities. How many men, how many women, age group wise, this age group, types of disability. So they can easily categorize that. And then now with that disability card, Sophie, you can able to say, you're going to get on your Zupco, right? So if you got your disability card, if I go with Sophie, who's my assistant, you and Sophie get a free ride on Zupco. You understand? When you go to all these government things, you just produce your disability card and that's it. So
mm.
simple things like this here just need to be done, Sophie. Here in Germany, you just have a disability card. Everywhere you go, you just have everybody's got the same disability card. But in them, it's like you don't even know where to get the disability card. If you've got the disability card, maybe it's just a letter. The letter written by who? By probably anybody else, any other organization. So everything is just all over the place.
Mm, mm, mm. So you're saying we need to go back to the drawing board and come up with a proper policy that will encompass and embrace all our persons with disabilities in our country, and then we can start from there on how we can help them when we know who we have, how many we have, and where they are.
Exactly. You cannot solve a problem if you don't know how big the problem is or how small the problem is. So
Mm,
as long as you don't have numbers, if I'm going to ask you today, try and Google the statistics of persons with disabilities in Zimbabwe. You find
nothing.
funny, and funny, crazy figures. Why isn't that there?
Mm,
That's what the other day I was saying. When this census is being carried out, they now need also to carry out the census and say, okay, we've got so many persons with disabilities and stuff. Because it only helps people to be able to solve the problem. Because for me, it doesn't work that you say they say, I've heard a statistic that says, what was it? I think it was like 5% or 15%. or 10% of the total population have disabilities. To me, that doesn't make sense. 40 years after independence, is this how we're still working? It just shows that people with disabilities, at the end of the day, are not seen as human beings. If they were really seen as human beings, let's just get the proper statistics together and so that we were able to see how big the problem is, how we solve the problem. If we are getting to get development partners to come through and help to solve the problem, they know how big the problem is, they know what needs to be done, and the way, and it's done. But if this is not there, the basic things if not there, even this policy that was unveiled, it will not make sense at times,
So currently, we can do we say that the government is doing nothing for its citizens with disabilities?
For me, according to
Is
me,
there no grant, no special allowance or something that the government is providing for persons with disabilities?
I'll wait to see when the manna comes from heaven, when government is able to do specific things for persons with disabilities. You don't get any grant from government. You understand? You don't get anything from government. Like what Flo was saying, the biggest problem that I see most of the time is when people look at you, they first look at your disability, then they see the person. So for me, I always say, first see me, then you see the disability, the person. I'll give you an example. Before we started this stream, you guys said to me, switch on your light, it's dark, people can't see. And I said, no, I'm not going to switch it on because it doesn't make sense. I can't see you. Why should you see me? But let's get the conversation going. You got what I'm saying? You got what I'm saying, Sophie? You understand what I'm saying? So at times people want to first look at your disability, then they look at you. Let's move away from the charity model. Disability is not charity. There are people with disabilities who've got amazing skills. There are people with disability who are very intelligent. People with disability who can be change makers. Why right now, Sophie? How come we cannot say from the 200 and I think 276 in Parliament, 260, 50, let's say 20 seats or 30 seats are reserved for persons with disabilities, either on proportional representation in terms of anything, you understand? And that's it. But you've got a whole parliament blocked up. How many persons with disabilities? You don't find any. So what are we doing? So even in parliament, when you guys do policies, how do you make inclusive policies that then accommodate persons with disabilities? Because people who are speaking there, they don't know how persons with disabilities, what their needs are, what is bad, what is good for them, what works and what doesn't work.
And they can't speak for the rights of persons with disabilities because there's no first-hand experience or first-hand knowledge of what people go through on a daily basis.
So I think you've heard this most of the time, and a lot of people, a lot of viewers and listeners can call with me. At times you've heard this term, Anzi, when disabilities, you understand? But that's not it. You know where the problem only comes? The problem comes whereby, Sophie, you are telling me to jump, and I'm telling you, no, let's not jump, let's go around. And then you say, no, so let's jump. But that's according to what you can see, but you're not thinking. You're probably forgetting to think. And I'm probably using my mind that no, but if we jump, what's going to happen? So most of the time is people are saying to you, just because of a disability, jump. And you're not able to say no. Why should I jump? And I always say, you only said to a person with a disability, okay, DJ Nyams, this is what we want to do. Then I'll tell you, okay, this is how I can work and this is how I can operate. Okay, don't say to me, no, work like this, work like this. The way you expect me to operate is I may not operate the same way you want me to operate, but at the end of the day, you want results. I can probably have another solution and still bring up the same results.
And we expect the same results, which is not fair. I mean, it's human nature. If someone keeps on putting pressure on you like that, you do get frustrated. Disability or non-disabled, it's human nature. So, I mean, going forward, but anyway, just to remind our viewers, we are moving with an International Day of Persons with Disabilities, where the theme for this year is leadership and participation of persons with disabilities. So, DJ Yams, would you want to take us through leadership and participation? Are there any success stories? I know you started touching on it in the last topic just now. Any success stories of persons with disabilities in Zimbabwe, besides yourself, of course?
I'm not in the success story. I'm still moving up. Okay, okay, Sophie, there are amazing stories out there in Zimbabwe. Amazing stories of persons with disabilities who've achieved so much, who've done so well. You understand? People who've gone to Special Olympics have won gold medals. You understand? You see, people who are doing, business people, teachers, broadcasters, lawyers, you talk about a lot of people, entrepreneurs with disabilities. There are a lot of successful stories out there of persons with disabilities. You understand? So I always ask myself, when are these persons with disabilities stories ever going to be heard or ever going to be told? But they are there. You get what I'm saying? They are there. But also, it also goes back to this, Sophie. One other problem that we have within I'll say an African Zimbabwean society is a disability is seen as a curse. You got what I'm saying? If you're black and you have a disability, it's a curse. I always say this to people. If I was white, if I was a white person, right, and I do things that I do, people will be saying, what this white man does is so amazing. But when I do whatever I'm doing, you understand, be it I'm broadcasting on radio, I'm walking alone or doing this, people will be like, no, but this guy, he sees a little bit. No, we don't trust, he's totally blind. Is it just because I'm black? To you, according to some people, if you're black, you cannot do certain things. Only certain things should be done by certain people. So I also think, number one, it's a mindset change. When Jesus came down on this earth, he left this earth. There are people with disabilities, and there are people with disabilities, and he loves everybody. So you and me should still respect everybody with a disability and still love them for who they are. So what am I saying in short? We've got amazing leaders out there in different societies. Like what I just gave you an example, from pastors to entrepreneurship, to broadcasters, to lawyers, to teachers, to we give talk a lot of a lot of success stories, but it's something sad that we don't recognize them. I remember, like in the last election, there was one guy who actually wanted to become an MP, and what happened was the talk was, how can you be an MP? Unknown, because this guy was blind. Unknown, he's going to be an MP. What is he going to see? And I said to people, for me to serve you or to lead you, it's not about my eyes. You understand? But it's about the brains. It's about the knowledge that I have to be able to lead my community or to play a leadership role.
So then, what do you think we need to do as society to put these people rightfully on a pedestal, rightfully on a recognition platform, so that we see them, we celebrate them, and we put them where they rightfully should be?
Okay. For me, first and foremost, the political parties have to say we're going to allocate seats for persons with disabilities. The political parties, they have to do that. You get what I'm saying? It starts from there. If the political parties do that, have persons with disabilities in parliament, proportional, there should be two categories. First is proportional representative, that from a proportional representation, a certain percentage is for persons with disabilities, but also two, persons with disabilities should be given allocation of constituencies where they are going to participate as candidates. And the other problem that then comes is you discover you'll be given a seat where you know that you will never win that seat. You understand? Why don't they give the people the seats in what you call the hot seats, whereby some seats are guaranteed that this seat, this constituency, this seat, this party will win it. You understand? Number two, let's go into to businesses, to companies. They need now to begin to take people with disabilities. They need to begin to embrace persons with disabilities. You get what I'm saying? Persons with disabilities can make your brand, your product, a better product. You get what I'm saying? I'll give you an example. If you are to employ me at your company, I come as a person with disability. I'm going to tell you, okay, this is your product, but if you do A, B, C, and D, your product is also going to be able to be used by persons with disabilities. You'll also have a clientele from persons with disabilities. Your product is inclusive to persons with disabilities. And you're done, because we are moving towards an inclusive society. You get what I'm saying? So this is what I'm saying. Once companies do that, because I once challenged other people, and I said to them, at this company, you guys don't have a ramp. Your offices are just upstairs. Now I'm going to ask you, if one of your top, be it your CEO, your HR or whatever, has an accident and then they're told they're going to be in a wheelchair for the next 8 months, but the office is upstairs, and upstairs in that building there's no elevator, how are they going to access the office? Now, what you're going to bring the office from upstairs, bring it downstairs, just not because they've got a disability, but
Do you
you're
know
supposed
that
to keep.
happened? Actually, I'm going to cut you short. Do you know that happened? I'm not going to mention the company. I
Yeah.
worked for that place, and one of the top managers had an accident,
Mm.
and the whole office was shifted downstairs. And we were saying this is what we've been talking about all along. We are not including, we're not being an inclusive employer. And I'm glad you bring it up because it is happening. It's happening, it's real, it's happening, and it has to stop.
That's what I'm saying in terms of like infrastructure. And Sophie, let's now go to churches. You understand? Churches and churches and churches. I do not come to church because I want to see. You get what I'm saying? You see, the problem is you go to a church, everybody assumes good. You, the prophet, the pastors come to pray for you to see. But who told you I want to see? I just want to hear the word of God. And that's it. Just like anybody else, I came to hear the word of God and I want to go home. But you go to a church, ah, my goodness. You know, you want to be laid hands on. Lord, let your my pastor, let my prophet, let my Mazibaba pray for you. That's not it. You understand? I just came to church to hear the word of God. You understand? Because what I figure out at times, everybody wants to experiment, wants to try a miracle on you. If it works, then they want to have a big name. No, I just came to a church. So the churches also have got a huge role in terms of educating and making people aware of what is a disability. There are people with disabilities in society, you understand? And it also goes back again, Sophie. When you look at certain words of Shona, things like words like bofu, mbeveve, what, you get what I'm saying? For me,
It's
I
a very
feel
good thing.
there are words that at least break you down. And I always say, why don't we just use the word munasingaone, munasinganzuke? You get what I'm saying? Because remember what munu, asgaone. So you first recognize the person, then you recognize the disability.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember I got blind. I think it was almost about 6 months, and I was walking in the road, and this guy, I don't even know this guy, said, "You both have Verma Sone." It really broke me down to the last. You get what I'm saying? I felt useless. I felt I'm like, I think I don't deserve to live. Because if this is
But
how
do you know,
society
it
treats you,
speaks volumes about that person, where they come from, the background, where they're coming from, what sort of people that person comes from. And it just speaks volumes that, you know what, Muno Ari mediocre, Muno Asiri very open to other people. Maybe it's someone who has problems that they're dealing with and they can't deal with them, and then they decide to take them out on another person. It's being a bully.
I agree with you, Sophie. Yes and no. You know what I've always said? Disability should have a syllabus in schools. You get what I'm saying? So if disability is a standalone syllabus, everybody will understand. If you see someone holding a cane, it's called a mobility cane, it's called a white cane. How does it work? What is its use? You understand? Someone who's blind is called visual impaired. You understand? I decide to just call myself blind because I always say there's no justification, there's no excuse. I'm blind, and that's a fact. Someone who's in a wheelchair is like this. So I always feel there has to be syllabus in terms of what? Of disability. That's the best way to educate people. At times people actually fear to talk to you because they always think maybe if I say this to him, I'm offending him. If I say this to them, you get what I'm saying. So it also comes back to say, is society being educated enough in terms of disability? So that has to be introduced in the education curriculum, that it has to be taught as a what? You understand? Even I'll give you an example in the highway code. Sophie, in Zimbabwe, one day I was walking in the road with a friend. Then my friend actually had to pull me off the road, and we fell down in a drain. And I'm wondering, what's happening? And then my friend is like, come down, I got out, it's sicker. And the guy stops. And you know what the guy said to me? He then comes out, sorry, sorry. I'm like, come dara. Monot sika food. Motora masimono and he says, I actually thought I've been on Goshena with a stick. And I'm like, okay. And so I started asking myself, negotiating with a stick, and he just said to me, the white cane has to be introduced in the highway code. Because then drivers have to know that someone who's like this here, who's holding this is blind and they don't see. So you as a driver, when you see them, reduce your speed. No matter where you are, try and reduce your speed because they are blind, and that's it.
Yeah, this is sad, and it shows us we have a long way to go.
A long way.
But
40
just
years.
to take you back to you were talking about an example of proportional representation in legislative bodies, and we are going into the elections in a couple of months, in a few months. Um, and the hot topic that is happening at the moment is voter registration. Do you feel, as persons with disabilities, that enough is being done to raise awareness to this important right to vote, to register to vote initially? Are you being given access and assistance to register to vote and to check for your names on the voters roll?
How do I check for my name on the voters roll if I'm blind?
There's no facility for braille.
Okay. How do I, even if the braille is there, if I can't read the braille?
Exactly.
So you see, everybody assumes if you're blind, you should read braille. You understand? But they're forgetting that people,
Exactly.
like for example, for me, I got blind in 2009, right? I don't read braille. I can't read braille. And I always say, I don't blame those people who can read braille, right? But for me, I just find like braille, it just doesn't do for me. I don't feel comfortable in using it, and it brings a lot of frustration to me. So certain things, when these things are done, there is a lot of things that are just people do it according to what they see, and they forget to think like what I said. Certain there should be certain infrastructure whereby just have a website, a portal. You understand? You go, you put in you probably even your first name, your voter registration ID, your voter registration number, your ID number, and stuff. You understand? And then you're able to say it's able to actually confirm to you that yes, you're registered. Or just put a short code on your phone that star one what star what on your phone and what in your ID number. Then it can tell you you're registered in this constituency. So those small little things. Two, the registration areas, the first question that will ask, are they accessible to persons with disabilities? If someone goes there with a wheelchair, are they able to access the voter registration site? Two, the distance, are they at reach to persons with disabilities? Was they might be there, but am I able to reach them? I was talking to one guy just before we came on this, you understand, about this whole COVID vaccination. He's blind, and you're saying to me, I have not got the vaccine. And I asked him why. He said, the distance for me to the vaccination place that I have to get vaccinated, I totally need somebody to pay for that person to get a lift to get and get vaccinated. So simple things like this, yeah. If they're missing a zippo, now there's an opportunity to 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 me. I want to put this an opportunity to the MDC Alliance. This is your opportunity to be a party. This is inclusive. This a party that represents everybody, that stands for everybody, that is going to have, whether in parliament, where persons with disabilities, you understand? Yes, as much as we might have a disability desk in the party and everything, but this is the time whereby you say it's not enough. It's time for persons with disabilities to have their own voices, to really speak for themselves, and being given the platform to speak for because it's been 40 years. It's really been 40 years. It's time for us to say we need a new way of doing things. We need a new leadership role to what. So there's an opportunity to say this is how we're going to move. We're not going to leave anybody behind. We're going to be inclusive and accommodate everyone.
Absolutely. Before we go on to the next question, I just want to see that the comments that have been coming up from our listeners and our viewers. They've been sharing some interesting comments. So I think if we can just read those out and acknowledge the viewers and the listeners that are with us in this broadcast.
Mhm,
I think there's some comments coming up.
mhm,
Right, there's Henry Musikavanu. Thanks, Henry, for joining us. He says, true, the capacity to lead is not found in the able bodied, but it is the knowledge and the brain in the person.
mhm. I agree with
Yeah,
him,
absolutely.
100%.
Mm. Right. Henry also goes on to say, I think he was commenting about when we were talking about church that, sometimes you just want to go to just hear the word and, just to receive a spiritual fellowship with others
Mm,
and not to have people perform experiments on
mm,
you.
mm, mm,
He says receiving sight may be a second blessing, but the first thing is the spiritual birth. That is quite right. The first thing you're
yes.
going to church is to also just fellowship with others spiritually.
Mm, mhm,
And then whatever comes later, but you're not looking for anything else.
mhm.
Lily Funk, thanks, Lily Funk, for your comment again. She says that is true. Germany has a Go disability system, but I've read an article that those with disabilities are finding it difficult on the job sections. Too many of the job applications are turned down. Something needs to be done worldwide to accommodate them in the work industry. So much talent is lost by this, as some of these people are very creative and very educated too. That is a given. That is so true.
Okay, Sophie,
Yeah, I want you to comment there.
how comment just to Lily. Um, yes, Lily, what you're saying is true. But also, you discover at the end of the day, what everybody needs is the access to the basic things, access to shelter, to clean and safe water, to security. So even if the persons are not being given the opportunity to work, but they've got the basics, you got what I'm saying, Sophie, the basics to shelter, to food. Now imagine you don't have the access to food, to shelter. You understand? And you still don't have the empowerment. It's a double tragedy. It's like you get what I'm saying. I had a situation in Zimbabwe. I, I, I was at home, and then just when I wanted to drink water, someone said to me, "Don't drink the water from the tap." But my assumption was water from the tap should be clean, and this water was really, really black. And I remember taking a video and a photo of this water, really, really black. So basic things like that, if they're not there, it's you understand? Yes, international and globally, in terms of empowerment of persons with disabilities in different job markets, has to be done. It cuts across every other single country on this planet. You understand? More and more persons with disabilities need to be employed and empowered. But some governments in some countries have done so very much, and some governments in some countries are still lagging way, 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 way behind.
Behind,
Mhm.
way behind. And like in this season, just to add it up with what is going on today, but we're commemorating the 16 days of activism on gender-based violence. How are persons with disabilities affected, and do they get the right and the correct help from authorities when gender-based violence affects them?
Sophie, it's sad. I think it was it late last year or so. Another girl with she's in a wheelchair. She sent me a screenshot, and on this screenshot was like so this girl was apparently looking for help, right? And then apparently someone sent her a message and said, I think the message read out, for me to help you, I want to first sleep with you. You got what I'm saying? So I said to the girl, just go to the police, you understand, and make that report. If you don't really feel comfortable, because you don't know who sent you this message, and you don't know how far this person is away from you or how near they are, you understand. But just go and make a police report. The basic question was, she said she went to the police station. Police station, she could not access the police station. Why? There's no ramp. You understand? So you know what the police didn't say to her? Ayo, kana wazorepwa wozozoripota. First no
What?
report, report.
What?
Does that make sense? It doesn't make sense. You get what I'm saying? I was in Zim. I got a threat, a message from a number which just said you are dead. I was like, I'm dead. Who's just sending me this message? You know, I'm dead. You understand? I went to the police station. You know what the police said to me? Ayo, you got message away. Can I say how do I then come to report the crime in Canada? As you can see, I'm blind. I'm message. I don't know, Diani, how far or how near are they to me? You understand? But you as the police, the number is there. Hey, the number is there. And I said, the police, the number is there. You guys are the police. You can go to one of these network service providers and actually get who this line is registered in and everything. And then question this person quickly, why did you send this message? What are your grounds to send this message? And everything was, I then don't feel safe. So basic things like this, yeah, in terms of gender-based violence, persons with disabilities, it's difficult for you to go and report because if you can't even access the police station, how do you go there? Two, even if the police goes there, on your docket, the docket runs on a pen, and the police just says to you, sign. How do you sign a docket? You can't see what's on the docket, on the police docket, and they expect you to sign. How are you going to sign? So there are a lot of other things that just need to be done in terms of what, someone who's deaf goes to the police station. You understand? They've been abused. Police don't know sign language. How are these guys going to interact? You get what I'm saying? Simple things like this here just need to be what? To be sorted out, you understand? In police stations, they need to have ramps. They have to have police who are trained in terms of interacting with the deaf. They have to have assistive devices in terms of even someone who's blind. If I come through and, just simple things like that. It only makes sense. So this gender-based violence at times, people with disabilities are just being abused, day in, day out, or just,
Yeah.
we have to go through it, and which is a sad situation and sad scenario, and nobody who can rescue you from there. After that has happened, you want to go to court, you want a lawyer, you can't afford the lawyer. What happens? The case at the end of the day just goes under the bin. It just goes under the drain, because there is nobody to represent you from,
Yeah. Lily goes on to say, she says, yes, I agree with you, Speaker. Germany's disabled society are well looked after by their governments. Other countries depend on charity organizations, which is normally the duty of the social welfare system, which is responsible. Budgets should be put through parliament, I think she wants to say. Yeah, parliament. But going to you, I know you said the first port of call that we need to do is we need to have a register of who is in the country, who is disabled, who is where, and who has this disability, so that we can start planning. But I mean, the current situation is that Zimbabwe is a country rich in diamonds and gold and all sorts of things, but we still have our disabled community sitting in the street corners and begging. What do you have to say about that?
When Mugabe passed away, you know what I just said to somebody? I said to someone, if they just give me Mugabe's eyes and I'm able to see where that 15 billion that he spoke about, and I could take it and could do amazing work for persons with disabilities in Zimbabwe, to me that would be a good thing. You see, so persons who are sitting who are beggars, I don't blame them, but I blame society, because at the end of the day, those are our families, those are our relatives. Nobody has given them an opportunity for them to be able to be independent or to be empowered. Another reason is, like what I said, times disability is seen as a curse. There's never been someone who's been disabled. Disabled. Was disabled. You get what I'm saying? All these kind of things. Society needs to begin to understand, Kuti, a person with a disability is just a human being, just like you and just like me. And you actually figure out, actually much more smarter and much more intelligent than even the so-called person, you understand? I remember being in a combi one time, So there was a girl that was seated by window, and then there was me, and there was this other man. And this man said to the lady, "Cause sister, voreka window, no rasa banana." I said to no, Ndara, musa rasa banana out of tea. You understand? Because imuka rasa banana, you understand? Unna chama achatsika banana ero otswedza. And I'm considering myself someone who's blind. I can step on it and two mosquitoes. You know what the guy said? Aiwa, vanhu ngotwa nebaba sekushanda. I said, no, that's not how you give munuji basa rekushanda. I said to the guy, give me my banana peels here. I took those banana peels and I thought, as we're going to travel, you understand? I got off Mukomi with those banana peels and I want to throw them in the bin. This guy was not even ashamed. You got what I'm saying? So you figure out we've got a long way to go, whereby when people as Africans, as blacks, when we look at a disability, it's not always about a curse. It's not always about munyama. It's not always about ngatiswage muroi. You understand? You know that Pamasho Sophie, people to know kupi. I'm going to give you my own personal example. This happened to me when I got blind. I went Kwakawanda, Kumapostori, where I dreamt I'll never go. And my apostles would tell me, Zokawanda one, hey, Wakandanzo Masoni Yukarara, hey, Uktokachi, na Mayaku, hey, Chichi, what are you saying? You go again to the prophets, pastors, they'll pray for you, they'll tell you, don't go to the doctor, you'll be able to see, don't do this, you understand? Until I just said to myself, this is all nonsense.
Enough.
My faith is in God. I'm putting my faith in the wrong people. I'm putting my faith in people who are actually trying to experiment. Let me put my faith in God, and I'm not going to be desperate, and I refuse to be made desperate, and that was it. Two, you then hear a lot of other rumors. You know, he got blind boys, he got blind boys, you understand? And then you say to yourself, where are people getting all these theories? You understand? Ridiculous theories. The most other ridiculous theory I've ever heard in my life was one woman. She says, when he was young, he once said he wishes he could be blind. And then people asked him, but why? He said, Kutakwira Komi Mahara. And people were like, do you know the person you're talking about? Ridiculous theories. So at the end of the day is society as blacks, as Africans, let's change our mindset towards disability. Ngatiregeze kungofungwa kuti disability kuroiwa tusikanosaka muroi kuita sei understand. Let's just look at disability just as a human being. We're actually much more intelligent and much more smarter than a lot more people than what you guys think we are.
Of course. Of course. But anyway, you know what? I just want to say here at Change Radio Zimbabwe, we are very proud to celebrate our disabled staff and communities and the positive difference and the impact that you make on our society and on the world. I mean, especially you, we've got you, DJ Nyams, we've got DJ Vaneljo. You are very talented individuals, and we are very proud, and we celebrate you today and every day. Not just today, we celebrate you every day. And we want to encourage you and others to keep on doing the work that you're doing, so that you take your rightful position in society, and we take this stigma away. And I just want to thank you for today. Thank you for the insightful words that you've given us. To Florence Mudzingwa as well, thank you so much for joining us. And we will continue to advocate for you today and every day. Do you have any last words, any parting words you want to give us before we go, DJ Nyams?
My parting words to everyone with a disability out there: remember, you guys are shining stars. You know, shine so hard. You're the world's greatest. If you've got a disability, just know this: you're the world's greatest. My definition of disability is the opportunity for you to be unique, to do things that nobody else can do. You understand? So be unique. You are a superstar. You are the world's greatest, and you should know it. To everybody else out there, just society, you understand? When you look at me, first look at me, then look at my disability. My disability is not a hindrance to anything. You understand? Don't think for me. Don't assume me. Just ask me. When you see me, don't just come and grab my head and say, no, let me help you cross the road. Just come and say, hi, my name is Sophie. Can I help you cross the road? Oh, you understand? It's just the basic things. But the world can become a better place if you and me just take it upon ourselves to educate ourselves on issues of disabilities, to make our families aware and everybody aware. But Sophie, thank you so much for this time. And yeah, we hope that as we progress, as we move ahead, the world can become a better place when persons with disabilities are given their rights and are just seen as, as citizens in our society.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, DJ Nyams. Thank you to our admin behind the scenes. Thank you, Flo, for being with us. And thank you to our listeners and viewers. We value your listenership, your viewership. Stay tuned on Change Radio. We've got a lot more exciting and informative programs coming up. And thank you, Lily.
Leader Sophia, we seem to have lost Leader Sophia. She did send me a private note to say that her battery is a bit low. So, but fortunately, she just made it through to the end of the program. Thank you so much, DJ Nyams, for joining us and for all the insightful information that you gave. We hope it will help us all in society to know how to get on and, to develop in society. And I would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to all our viewers and listeners who joined us today in celebrating the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. From wherever you're joining us across the globe, whether you are joining us through our YouTube platform, our Facebook platform, or our Change Radio station, thank you so much for joining us for this program. And I would like to just wish you all a blessed night, blessed evening, blessed afternoon, morning, depending on where you're joining us from. With that, we would like to just leave you listening to a special song by Tafazwa. Please help me. What is the name of the artist of our song that we're going to be listening to?
Ford Mazaruse, the song called Shamwari. He actually launched it today. It's a song that he did for persons with disabilities. So if you go on YouTube and look for Ford Mazaruse, a song called Shamwari.
There you hear it, our viewers and listeners, a song by Forward Mazaruse. It's called Shamwari Yakanaka.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so without much ado, here is Ford Mazaruse for you.
Shamwari
Check.
yakanaka asine yakaremara ngauye kuchitoro kwandinotengera vangu vana nokuchabva dzake dzaachapfeka mbatya mwana weShamwari waiona Shamwari yakanaka inonzi Shamwari yakanaka Shamwari yakanaka inonzi Shamwari yakanaka kuna dzimwe Shamwari uripo kungoti pote aiwa kagodzi rapera idzo hadzisi Shamwari dzakanaka kwozoita Shamwari dzinouya kuzoona mai vana vachishupika vari kulodhiba uko idzo hadzisi Shamwari dzakanaka